All right, part 3 in what not to do in a garden, especially a raised bed. This is Lucky Ducky right here. He wants to say hi. Hi, Lucky. How are you? So what not to do, and this is something that I am terrible at, even though I've done it a million times, and I tell myself I'm not going to do it, I do it again and again, is overcrowd your garden bed. This bed right now is doing okay. It's just got herbs in it. It's got cilantro, Italian parsley. There's some curly parsley back there in the back, and it's got my green onions. I'll tell you what, green onions are one of my favorite things to grow because they will literally grow in everything, including my crappy topsoil mixture that I said in the first video. These grew great in it. I just got a pack of a bunch of green onions for like $1 at Walmart. And I took the white part, you cut it down to the white part, and I took the white part that was left over, and instead of throwing it away, I threw it in the garden, and they keep growing and growing. It's the gift that keeps on giving. I suggest that everybody grows it. But back to the main point of this video is that you don't want to overcrowd your garden. This right here is a bed that my husband had got last year. Whenever we moved into the house, I knew I wasn't going to be able to really do a real garden, but I still wanted to do something, so he brought me this. Now, this right here is damage from my dog, Eddie Spaghetti. He chews everything, and so he chewed part of my garden bed, but this is a good quality garden bed. Otherwise, it doesn't withhold up to dogs, but it does withhold up to the sun and everything like that. So in here, my husband wanted me to be able to have a garden because he knows that's what I really like to do. So he went and bought me like a set of broccoli plants. He brought me a tomato plant. He got me a basil plant. He got me that parsley right there. It survived all summer long. It was in miserable shape, and then as soon as we got cold weather and it started to get frost, the parsley was super happy to get some frost, and it just got so green and so beautiful. But we had all of that including these onions in this bed, and at the time I didn't know that, which I just found out like in the past week, that you were not supposed to have brassicas with tomatoes. The brassicas will overtake the tomatoes when it comes to getting nutrients, and your tomatoes will not grow as well. So my tomato did actually grow as far as got taller and bushier. It never even flowered. I don't think it even flowered one time. So it definitely wasn't able to get the nutrients that it needed in this little bitty bed. Honestly, if I was to use this bed again for a tomato, I would literally just have the tomato in it and probably these green onions and nothing else. And actually, the broccoli that was in it is this broccoli right here. This is a collard green over here. This is a broccoli, and this is a broccoli, and these two broccolis were in that bed, and they were in there from March of last year to January of this year. And when I planted these in here, they were also miserable, just like the parsley, and they were like as tall as where this woody looking part is. That's all they grew in the whole year because they were so miserable in that bed. There wasn't enough space, and it was honestly the wrong season for them. My husband just got some plants that he saw and just threw them in there just so I could have something to play with for the year. So I would not do that again. Now, obviously you can see that I had my tomatoes in here. I will be moving these two tomatoes away from brassicas, and they will have a new home in the next couple of days. And like I said, I do it time and time again. I have even overcrowded this bed, which is doing much better than anything else I've ever done. But you can see I have 3 celeries, which don't seem to mind being overcrowded. The broccolis, I think that if I had to do it over again, I would have put a broccoli on this side, a broccoli on this side. This is not a very big bed. I think it's 2 by 4 by 1. So it's an 8 square foot bed, or 8 cubic foot bed. So I would put one over here, and I probably would have squeezed 2 celeries in here still. And then I would have filled up one of my other beds. At the time that we bought these, I actually only had, I had this bed and I had that bed. I think I bought this bed because I had so many broccolis, and so we transferred the two out of that first raised bed with the parsley and stuff into this one. So I didn't have very much space, and so I just crammed them where I could, and I think they would have been a lot happier if they were not overcrowded, because broccolis are heavy feeders. They need a lot of nutrients, and I don't use a lot of fast acting fertilizer, but it is something that I have done and will do. I just don't use it often. I use slow release organic fertilizer for the most part. I fill my bed, and then after I fill it, before I plant anything in the first probably like 2 or 3 inches of soil, I mix in the Epsoma garden tone, it's garden tone, that I put in here, and I mix it in really well and water it in, and then I plant the plants in there, and I come in and give a sprinkle. I don't know, I don't even document it. Probably every 5 weeks or so I come in here and put another sprinkle in. But that's just something. There's some plants that you can go ahead and crowd into one space. Like, obviously I have a lot of herbs in that herb bed, and they're fine being in there. But even here, I've got the 3 broccolis and the 2 parsleys. And if it wasn't for the end of the cool season, I would move these broccolis over here. But yeah, I would give them all a lot more space. Now, I'm probably going to end up taking these broccolis out, maybe putting them in a pot and letting them go to flower if they get any more florets on them, so that way the bees come. These right here were my broccolini, and I never even got one little broccolini out of it, because in January it was cold. We had one day that was like 70 degrees, and in that one day, all of the florets on it, like within 24 hours, I went from being a floret to being spread out flower buds, and I was really disappointed. But the bees have loved these little tiny flowers on here. So now they're just taking up space. They're in residence just to make the bees happy, because we want the bees to come to our garden. So I don't mind them being there. But at some point I am going to have to take them out and either toss them, throw them to the chickens, or put them in pots. So that's just one thing to think about. If you have something like tomatoes in the summertime, they do need their own space. I know a lot of people are into square foot gardening, which I might take a space to try that out. But I really think that you should do like no closer for heavy feeders than like 18 to 24 inches apart is probably what I'm going to aim for, and just see if that's better, because I have always overcrowded all of my plants and try to put like 2 tomatoes into like a 5-gallon grow bag, and they just have not worked out. If they did get any fruit in the past, they only got like 1 or 2 tomatoes on them, and they weren't pretty tomatoes. They weren't good looking. They weren't healthy looking tomatoes. So that was probably a mixture of the fact that it had really garbage, crappy soil that they were growing in, and then I wasn't giving them enough space, and I wasn't giving them enough nutrients. One thing that I am going to do, it's getting dark out here so you can't hardly see anything now. One thing I am going to do is talk about how I fertilize now compared to what I did before. I won't do that in this video, but just because we're talking about heavy feeders and nutrients, that is also something that you want to consider whenever you're gardening. Is if you're doing organic only fertilizer, then it is going to be slow release, and so sometimes I think it's beneficial to get those fast acting inorganic fertilizers, just to give your plants an extra boost if they need it. That's my opinion. Not everybody's going to agree with that, and that's okay. So, yep, that's just some food for thought.